There once lived a man named Joe. All he thought about was money, drugs, and hoes. One day his best friend Jack stabbed him in the back. Joe was looking at the harbor with intentions of being whacked. When he arrived, he stepped out of the car and was attacked by a Caucasian and two blacks. They busted him up good, stomped him until he was within an inch of his life. Then he was stabbed twice in the stomach with a knife. He lay there bleeding out alone in the night. He opened his eyes and was blinded by the light. He was laying in the hospital room, hooked up to a machine. His mom sitting next to him. He felt he was such a fiend. He hoped for release from his demons. He prayed for his mother. He knew how she must surely be feeling. He thought about the actions that had left him lying in the hospital bed as he looked at the ceiling. He knew he was lucky to be alive and breathing, but a part of himself wished he would have died in the cold concrete street. Instead, he's got an IV in his arm and he's looking at his feet. It didn't matter now how hard he was or his amount of money. He laughed it off when his mother warned him of this, but now that it happened, it wasn't funny. If he could, he would get up, leave, and never quit running. He feared reliving every memory and nightmare scenes when he closed his eyes for sleep. He asked his mother to sing to him like she did when he was young. He felt so at peace and loved when she sung. Her voice carried him away. His ears picked up on every change in pitch her voice made. With his mother beside him, Joe felt so safe. He knew he was the one to blame for where he was laying. In his head, he kept reliving the moments that tore him apart. He could still hear himself saying, "The fuck off of me," as he reached for the car. Laying in the hospital bed, he knew he had gotten too far over his head. He thought about what to do now that he wasn't dead. He had thoughts of sweet revenge, of ending the lives of the men that tried ending him. After Joe was released, he vowed to change the streets, paid Jack a surprise visit the following week. When Jack seen Joe, he could hardly speak. He looked as if he had seen a ghost. Joe raised his hand, which contained a gun. He let most of the shots fire and put the gun to Jack's head and gave him another one. Joe's business wasn't done. He had 3 more dogs to put down. He knew where the white boy lived, so he went to his house. Standing at the back porch, he cocked his shotgun before he knocked on and kicked in the door. In the kitchen stood the man and his girl. Joe started dishing the pain, attained the names and locations of his final targets, and left the snitch dead on the floor. Joe traveled to his final destination, but when he got to the house, no one was home. Joe broke in through a window and made himself comfortable. Some time passed and the door creaked open at last. 2 shadows emerged. Joe clicked on the light and his vision blurred. He fired. One of the men dropped, the other pulled out a Glock. Joe was hit with a turn fire, but he kept his finger on the trigger and the other man's life expired. Joe walked home and crawled into bed. He hardly had any blood left because of how much he bled. He thought he had never felt so tired, yet he had never been happier. He called his mother and told her how much he loved her. He shed a tear and cried for the first time in years. He felt his wound bleed and prayed that when he went to sleep, it was God he would meet.